So this is Unit 2. We're kicking off Unit 2 with Introduction to iOS Development, right? The last unit, Unit 1, we covered Swift fundamentals. We started off at the very beginning. We started off talking about variables and constants. We went to control flow. We spoke about loops, for loops, repeat while, right? We went into functions. We spoke about collections, arrays, sets. What's the other collection we spoke about? We had arrays, sets, and what's the third one? Dictionaries, right? We spoke about optionals, right? Functions, classes, structs, enums. We spoke about a lot of things. All that is covered in Unit 1. If you want to go back to the resources we have in Unit 1, we had a repo for that. Right? This is everything we covered in Unit 1. It's a lot. Almost feels like the whole 10 months. So types, control flow, loops, strings. If anything catches you as, whoa, I don't know what that is, we're there for you. Optionals, dictionaries, sets, functions, closures, enums. As we got deeper into Unit 1, we started talking about more complex data types. A complex data type is an enum, a struct, a class. It enables us to encapsulate real objects. Our assessment was using those fundamentals there of talking about, hey, we have a blackjack game. How can we model it, right? It was clearly instructed for us. But at some point, you'll be given a project. Hey, go build this thing. Where do you start, right? We started out with a card. We said the blackjack has a card. And we went on. We created enums and classes and structs for it, right? There's functions there that we used. So all that comes together and we build a project. So we actually built a very solid project with that assessment there. We spoke about initialization. And we kicked off a 30-minute lesson talking about encapsulation and what that is. We'll see more of it as we go, right? We'll come back and visit it. But basically, true encapsulation is I can't touch your property without using a function. Your properties are all private. We spoke about that. And those are all the class projects we did, the question reviews we did, the lecture videos are here. All the content is here to go back and see what it is about. This is great. Now, today we are here because we want to be iOS developers. So we're kicking off iOS development, right? We've seen Xcode. We know Xcode is an IDE, right? IDE is integrated development environment, right? So everything that you need to build an app is in Xcode, minus the design assets and everything that you get from the designer. Great, so this is Xcode. This is the new Xcode. This is what it looks like. Right? This is Xcode 11, new interface, right? Almost every year the interface changes, but this year the interface really got a bigger change, right? Because we have Swift UI. Swift UI is a different way to design user interfaces for iOS. We won't exactly cover Swift UI here because Swift UI is very new. Swift UI came out at WWDC in June 2019. I was very pleased and favored and blessed to be there when Swift UI was announced. Nobody knew Swift UI was coming. Everybody spoke about reactive programming and declarative design, all that stuff, right? But it was unveiled at WWDC. Everybody was wooed and wowed, like, wow, this is awesome. And the way it was demonstrated to create a user interface was spectacular. Like very easy, very simple. You say what you want, it appears on screen. It's awesome, right? But we're not covering Swift UI here. We're covering UIKit, right? UIKit has been around as long as the iPhone has been around, which is 2008, right? Almost 10, 11 years. So UIKit is very solid. UIKit, UI stands for user interface, right? We've seen UIKit in like playgrounds, import UIKit, but today we'll actually start using UIKit frameworks or UIKit APIs, right? So for now, know that iOS developers could design UI, user interface, two ways. We could use Swift UI, right? Or we could use UIKit with storyboards. Those are the two ways we have, right? And the way we'll see here is UIKit. Why UIKit? UIKit is mature. Swift UI is very new and very cutting edge. You'll get a job, it's going to ask you for UIKit experience. At some point, SwiftUI will be hot, right? It's hot already. You'll see, hey, you need SwiftUI as well, right? Do you have SwiftUI experience? Do you know what SwiftUI is? At some point in the program, you'll have enough experience to look at SwiftUI and be able to understand it, right? But day one of iOS development, you still core need to know what UIKit is, how to use UIKit. Everybody with me? And UIKit is not going away. Like everybody will ask, like, hey, should I know this? Should I know that? Languages, frameworks don't die. They're around. You need to support them somehow, especially bigger companies. If you want to go work for Facebook or whatever, bigger companies move slower. Startups move faster, right? So it depends on the company you want to work at, what experience you need to bring to the table there, right? With Facebook or Pinterest, they still use Objective-C. So we'll see Objective-C somewhat at the end towards like job search. As Swift developers, Objective-C, yes, the syntax might look hard in the beginning, the first week, but come second week, you'll be writing it like you know Swift, like you know Objective-C like all along, right? It's the same frameworks you hit in, right? It's the same frameworks in Objective-C, right? So that's what that is there. So this is what the UI looks like. To break it down, we have the toolbar at the top. We have the editor area where you type your code. We've been typing code there in command line. So that's the editor area. For SwiftUI only, you have this preview that as you type, as you change, it hot reloads. So you don't have to run the simulator again. So I type my hello world. I change hello world to hello iOS. It changes, right? So that's new in Xcode 11. And that's new with SwiftUI, right? That preview there. With UIKit, we won't have that preview available to us, but the simulator is there. Also, at the bottom, we have the debug area. We've seen the debug area before, but today we'll start using breakpoints and seeing what breakpoints are used for. You've probably seen me here and there use breakpoints trying to debug your code, but we'll start using breakpoints and really making them the best debugging tool that we have. The breakpoint I'm talking about here, do we see line 12 where it has that blue arrow, right? So that's a breakpoint. And when you run the application, it stops at that breakpoint, right? You feel like your app is crashed, but it hasn't crashed. It stopped at that breakpoint. At this point, it stopped on line 13, right? And then you could debug your code there. We'll see what that looks like. To the left, we have our navigator area. That's where you see all your project files. You have some default files or boilerplate files that comes with any new project. For example, we have the app delegate there. Do we see the app delegate right where it says hello world? Do we see the app delegate? Right, so every project comes with an app delegate. Again, new to Xcode 11, we have a scene delegate. We'll go through those in depth later. But now we have the app delegate. We always had the app delegate, but now we have the scene delegate. We have the scene delegate because on iPad, you could have multiple windows. So you could have multiple scenes. Content view we don't have. This is SwiftUI only there. We all have assets. We'll see what assets look like today. Those are where you put your videos and your images, your MP3 files, whatever media you have goes in the assets folder. Great. So let's get started by creating a new Xcode project. Yes? Your Xcode is not working. You said it was loading, right? You said it was installing? Okay, let's all go to Xcode. All go to Xcode and create new project, right? So not a playground, but create a new Xcode project. Click on create a new Xcode project. It's going to be a single view app. So single view app. Make sure you have iOS selected. For the template, make sure you have iOS selected. It's a single view application. So far, so good? Okay, so we'll move on. We'll click next. For the product name, I'll say my first app. For the product name, I'll say My First App. For the team, make sure you have your team selected. That's your Apple developer account name. For the organization name, you could put your name, right? You, your organization, you yourself here. For the organization identifier, it's recommended that you use what's called a reverse domain name. If you do not have a website, that's fine. You could make something up, right? Like com.first name, last name, that's fine. Nothing is going to break there. That only comes in handy when you're about to submit an app to the App Store, right? For now, for purposes of learning, this could be anything you make up, right? You could put pursuit, you could put your own name, it's up to you. I'll probably put your name, right? So com.amini there. That creates the bundle identifier to make your app unique, the ID itself unique. For the language, we are using Swift. But as I said before, you could write apps, obviously, with Objective-C, which has been around before Swift, right? So here we're using Swift, so make sure Swift is selected. And I spoke earlier about UI and iOS developers being able to create user interfaces now 2 ways. Before we had 1 way. Now we have 2 ways of creating iOS apps, right? So here, if you select it, you see Swift UI and you see Storyboard. So far, so good? So Swift UI, as I said earlier, got introduced this year. It's new, fancy, it's hot, it's the new thing. Everybody's jumping on board there, right? But we are using Storyboard. If we keep going down, let's talk about the other options we have here. Later into the program in Unit 5, we'll see core data. For now, make sure core data is unchecked. If it was checked, make sure it's unchecked. Also, we'll be talking about unit tests very soon. Make sure it's unchecked as well. UI tests, make sure that's unchecked as well. Click Next. Where you see it says Create GitHub repository here, make sure that's unchecked. At some point, I'll show you guys how to tie Xcode with GitHub without using terminal, but only when we've gained enough experience with both. Well, when we've gained experience with terminal more, probably later in Unit 2, I'll show us how to use Xcode to create a repository on our GitHub, okay? So Xcode has that capability of doing all that. But I'll do it later because I don't want us to get clutched to Xcode because there's some times where you think everything is committed, but it's not, so you have to go back to terminal. Everybody with me? It's not exact, it's not 100% proof there. But we'll come to that later. Now, make sure it's unchecked. And we click Create. Awesome. Great, great, great. So we click Create. Right before us, we see the information about the application. We see the display name, the one we created. So that display name that we see there, where it says display name, that's the app name that we see on the iPhone or the simulator when we run it. This one says My First App, right? It defaults to version 1. That's the default. Apple doesn't accept anything below 1.0. Apple do not accept beta software. Build 1, that's like the first build. We'll get more into like build and versions later. But as you submit to the App Store, those become important. For now, not so much, but as you submit to TestFlight or whatever later, like towards like Hackathon, Capstone, those numbers will mean more to us. For the target here, by default, it targets both iPhone and iPad, right? New again in Xcode 11. Every year I get like a whole bunch of like new features, which is like so super exciting, right? This one, for this year, it's the Mac, right? So if you're creating like an iPad app, you could basically check the Mac and basically have a Mac app. So you could have an iPhone, iPad, Mac app with the same Swift code. Everybody with me? Cool. So for now, this is unchecked. We have iPhone, iPad. This is fine. Let us zoom out here. The orientations, let me talk about that. So device orientation, portrait, we know you hold the phone up in the long way, this is portrait. This is portrait, everybody's seeing me, right? The home button is facing south. Everybody with me? So where the home button is facing south, this is portrait. If you turn it counterclockwise or clockwise, either or, it goes into landscape, right? We watch a video, landscape. We play a video game, most probably landscape. So far, so good. Our Instagram is portrait. Everybody with me? Most apps, like an Instagram, they would have portrait only. So even if you unlock your phone and you go into landscape, the app is not going to go into landscape, which makes sense, right? The whole interface changes. It's different. It's a different user experience. So most likely you'll see games and videos in landscape, and like Twitter, or sometimes, I don't think Twitter is, I need to double check. But Instagram is portrait only. So far, so good? So here, our app, I'm sorry? So yeah, so confirmation, thank you, Christian. So Twitter is portrait only. So our default here, it starts off with being portrait and also landscape. So far, so good? If you do not want your app to be landscape, you uncheck those. So far, so good? So this is the place we come. If we want to have only a portrait app, we could just uncheck everything like that. But for now, let's just keep it landscape. Awesome. We just probably notice there's so much more now, right? So much more now to see in Xcode. All right, so let's keep going. Let me zoom in to the toolbar here. The very top bar is called the toolbar. As we saw earlier in the lesson here, that very top part here is the toolbar. From left to right is the toolbar. Everybody with me? In the toolbar, we have the play button. Everybody sees that? Everybody sees that? The stop button. So play is to run the application. Go ahead and click play. Let me stop this. Before we click play, sorry, stop, click stop. Before you click play, do you see where it says devices or simulators? Do you see my first app at the top left? Do you see my first app? To the right of it, do you see the arrow here? Do you see the drop down? It shows iOS simulators. Unless your device is connected, we'll show you guys how to connect your devices. How many people have iPhones? All right, that's a great number of people. Awesome. So we'll show you guys how to connect your devices. Actually, go ahead and connect your devices. How we connect our devices, the same way we connect it to charge. Do we all have a lightning cable? No. Okay, so that's the next problem there. How do we charge our phones? Oh, you don't have the hub. Is that a thing? Let's brainstorm how we could maybe get cheap cables bought for us. I know that could be pricey. Cool? All right, we'll figure that out. Okay, for now, we all have iOS simulators, correct? We all should have iOS simulators, yes? All right, go ahead and select the most expensive device. Yes, we can buy it, but we could use it here. Actually, the most expensive device is probably the iPad Pro, this guy, 12.9 inch. Okay, so select the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Everybody? Make sure you select iPhone 11 Pro Max. You could use any simulator, but for now, we'll just use the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Everybody with me? So select that. Great, let me go back, zoom out here. And now you could click on the play button, or you could press Command R to run the application. Either or, either the play button or Command R. Get in use of using Command R. So Command R will run the simulator. It might take a little longer for the first time you run the simulator on that specific simulator. When it successfully ran, you should see an iPhone pop up on your screen. Yes? Like mine? Everybody? So here we have the simulator running. This is the iPhone simulator, right? It simulates the iPhone. Everybody with me? Okay, for now, this is our first app, right? It doesn't do anything, but that's our first application. It's a white screen. It's awesome. We could ship it. No, we can't. All right. let's see what the home screen looks like. If you want to get to the home screen of the device, everybody follow. I have my mouse. You see where everybody sees the black bezel at the bottom? At the bottom of the whitest most bottom of the screen, click on that black bottom there, the bezel, and swipe up. Swipe up with your mouse. That should get you to your home screen. Right? So if you swipe up, it gets you to your home screen. Everybody sees the home screen? So again, it's a simulator. It has some default applications on it. Like you see, calendar is on there, photos is on there, maps is on there. Yes? Are we all at our home screen? Okay, I'll get back to the app. We're in our app. We have a white screen, correct? Is everybody at the home screen? Okay, perfect. So I'm at my home screen, and this is my home screen. You could go to settings, click on settings. Right? So here you have a simulated version of the phone, again, right? You can see what General has. I'm sorry? If you have the cable. Do you have the cable? No, yeah, you need to, yeah. All right, so let's go back to home. Go back to home and navigate. You guys should all have like one of those white applications on your home screen, yes? Without the icon, right? So those white applications there, those are the applications we launched or we created ourselves. Everybody with me? The one we created, what's it called? My First App, right? So if you want to launch it, you launch it like you launch any other iPhone app. You click on it. So I click on My First App, it launches my app. Everybody with me? So now we know how to get to the simulator. We know how to launch an app from the simulator. We know how to get to the home screen. So far, so good? So far, so good. All right, great. Let's change the color of our white screen. Let's first see how that looks like. So as I said, let's go over the files again that we have. This right column here, we said is called the navigation area. Oh, sorry, left column. The left column we said is the navigation area. So far, so good? In the navigation area, let's zoom in here. We have the app delegate that I said we all get, right? On a new application, we get the app delegate. New to iOS 13, we get the scene delegate. We'll talk about the app delegate and the scene delegate, right? So we have the app delegate. We have the scene delegate. You could have many scenes, but only one app delegate. We have the view controller. The view controller is the one providing that view that we see on the screen. The white screen that we see there, that's called a view. The view controller provides that view to us, right? We have the main storyboard. Click on main storyboard. Let me zoom in here, zoom out. So the main storyboard here, we have only one window or one scene. Do we all see that scene there, the white one? That's the one we see on screen. When we launch the app, that's what we saw on our device or on our simulator. This is coming from this scene, this view controller. Yes, sir? Is your navigation area closed? So if it's closed, did you close it? So let's see what that looks like. Everybody, pay attention to the top right corner where we have the 3 blue boxes. Do we see that? Do we see that? Right? So if you click on this one and it's white out, your navigation area disappears. Everybody with me? So you do not see your files anymore. What Xcode are you running? And you created a command line tool, or you created a single view app, iOS app? Okay, we'll double check what's going on in your screen. All right, so we have the main storyboard. This is where we could set up our UI elements. For now, we have nothing, it's empty. Everybody? So that's the default we get when we say new application. The assets folder is where we put our images and everything there. For now, we have an empty icon because we do not have an icon. Everybody with me? I'll stop there for now. Let's all click on the main storyboard. All click on the main storyboard. Right? Do we see where it says view as iPhone? At the bottom of the scene here. Do we see view as iPhone? Click on it. You could change what scene or what simulator you see in the canvas. We have iPads. You could change dark mode or light mode. Again, dark mode is new in iOS 13 and new in Xcode 11. That's also new. So everything we're seeing there is new. When 6.1 started, this was not a thing. This was still in beta. But now it's available to us. So we have dark mode, we'll talk about at some point in the unit. And we have light mode. We all have iOS 13, or who has iOS 13 sees what dark mode and light mode looks like. So we have the capability here. We also have do you see orientation here? For now, it's in portrait. We could go to landscape. See what our app looks in landscape. Go back to portrait. We could change what iPhone we're looking at. I could say I want to look at iPhone 8 Plus, right? I want to look at iPhone 11, iPhone 11 Max. I could look at iPad, right? Those are different devices here. For now, make sure that the view as is the same as the simulator. So make sure the view as says iPhone 11 Pro Max here. And for your simulator up here, make sure it's also iPhone 11 Pro Max. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? So make sure the two are in sync for now. No. I mean, when you start, no. But the purposes for today, make sure the two of them are in sync. When we start talking about auto layout and laying out your views, doesn't matter on the device, then it doesn't matter. But for now, it matters because whatever we do, we're not using auto layout today. Auto layout is a way to lay out your views so that they're dynamic with the size of the device. Right? For now, we're not using auto layout today. That's just too much to throw at the table there. Right? So we'll talk about auto layout later in the week or next week. Yes, sir. We'll be doing it through Interface Builder, which what you're watching right now is called Interface Builder. We'll be doing it through here. But later in Unit 3, we'll be doing it programmatically, laying out our views programmatically. But for now, for the purposes of today, if you're using an iPhone 11 Pro Max, make sure your simulator is the same. And make sure your view as is the same. Everybody with me? Okay, cool. All right, great. So let's pay attention to the inspector column. So to the right column here, that column we have here that says not applicable, everybody sees that column? Everybody sees that column? This column is called the inspectors column. This is all where inspectors are. The attributes inspector, the identity inspector, connections inspector, all those inspectors are on the right column. Everybody with me? If you forgot what something is, you go back to the lesson and you see what the columns are. This column here that I'm talking about is called the inspector area or inspector column. Right? So we have the inspector, we saw the navigator area, we saw the toolbar. All right, great. Let me go back. All right. So click on your scene. Click on the white area here, the scene. Click on it. If you clicked on it, and let's go over, let me zoom this in here. Right below our 3 boxes for hiding our areas here, if I zoom in, do we see that down arrow, the blue down arrow that my mouse is over? This is called the attributes inspector. It's called the attributes inspector, right? So click on the attributes inspector. And make sure that you clicked on your view. If you click on the open canvas, it's going to disappear. Everybody with me? To bring it up, you have to click on the white area, that white view, the white scene there, and it comes up. Everybody with me? Great. So let's talk about that. This here is a view, right? every view controller, we'll see what a view controller is, but every view controller has a view. It has a view property, right? The view property is a class. We spoke about classes 2 weeks ago. It has a class. That means other classes could inherit from it, correct? It's not a struct, it's a class. We did say that UIKit has a lot of classes, and it does have a lot of classes. Everything basically is a class. It can inherit, it could subclass, and so on. So here we have view. That's it. The view doesn't have anything. The view has properties. The view has a tag. Let's zoom in. The view has a tag. The view has an alpha, right? Alpha 0 means the view, you cannot see the view. It's invisible, right? It's hidden. Everybody with me? So alpha 1, I could see my view. I could change the alpha of it. It goes from 0 to 1, right? As we see animations, and when you see animations on your phone, like some fade animation, like something is going in and coming out, they're changing the alpha property of the view, right? When you watch a movie at the end of it, if you say fade to black, whatever, that's like some alpha property getting changed. Everybody with me? And the view, the alpha property is from 0 to 1. That's the valid part. That's the valid parameters there. I could go 0.1, which is slightly in view. I could go 0.5, which is like in between. The closer I get to 1, the more of that view I see. Everybody with me? So that's the alpha property. We have background. Do we see background? For today, we'll just take a look at the background. So click on the background. You see the up-down arrow? Click on the up-down arrow and select any color of your choice. For me, I'll just select orange. Our view became orange, correct? Run the application again. Right, now we have an orange screen, okay? Not very innovative, but now we're able to change our view. Everybody with me? The view has a background color property. We just changed that property on the view. Everybody with me? Okay, let us go to Apple documentation, because as I talk about something new, I want us to see what it looks like. So UIView here. First of all, let's go to UIKit. Let me select this out, documentation, bookmark the documentation. Let's talk about documentation. All right, so here before me, we have the Apple developer documentation. Every documentation that Apple has that's public is here. It's available to us, right? Today, we're talking about UIKit. It's an app framework. AppKit is for the Mac. UIKit is for iOS. We have WatchKit, which is obviously for the watch. We have TVML, which is for the TV OS. So all the Swift that we're writing here, we could take our Swift knowledge and go create an iOS app for the iPhone. We could create an iPad app. We could create a TV OS app. We could create a watch app. And pretty soon, the Google, the glasses app, right? Who knows? Maybe 2020, we might see a glasses in 2020. I don't know. Right? So all the Swift that we know today from Unit 1, we could apply that to any type of Apple device. Everybody with me? Those are the Apple devices that we could write for. The watch, iPhone, iPad, TV, the Mac, all those are Swift. Yes, you could also do Objective-C. Those frameworks here, the app frameworks, it's called app for a reason. Those frameworks write towards the app, right? If you want to write for iOS, you're using UIKit, right? Foundation is for everything. Everything has arrays, dictionaries. That's foundation. We learned basically foundation is Unit 1. It makes sense, foundation, the fundamentals of the language. Swift is the language we use. UIKit is huge. We cannot cover the entire UIKit. Nobody could cover the entire UIKit. You could grab pieces pieces here and there as far as like what you need, but UIKit is huge, right? There's a lot of pieces of UIKit, right? Today we'll be talking about the user interface part of UIKit. We'll be talking about views. We saw our first view, that white screen that we see there. It's a UI view. It's a class UI view, right? So this is UIKit. I'll just select that out. So inside UIKit, we have a lot of APIs available to us. We have view APIs. We have control APIs. The first one we'll look at is UIView. UIView is a class, as we said. It manages the content of a rectangle on screen, right? Whether it be the watch, well, the watch is watchOS, but whether it be iPhone, iPad, iPad now even has its own OS. It's iPad OS, right? There's a lot of frameworks there available to us. So here we have a UI view, and one of the properties of a UI view is a background color. Let's go down to properties here. So here we have the topics, how to initialize a UI view. Here we have background color, configuring a view's appearance, right? This part right here. Configuring a view's appearance. You could change the background color. In code, we could also say view.background color equal to some color. So the same thing we did in Interface Builder here, sorry. This area here that allows us to change the canvas or to change the scene is known as Interface Builder, or IB for short, right? So the same properties we changed here, that background, we just changed to orange, or you guys, your color. I could do it in code using background color, right? Background color, the data type of background color is UI color. UI, again, from user interface, from UIKit. So here we see the type is UI color. I slacked out UIView link to you guys in Slack. Oh, I didn't slack out UIView, sorry. Let me, one second. Let me send it. Let me slack it. UIKit documentation, UIView. So the last one is UIView, the one I just slacked out. Okay, so the one I just slacked out is UIView here, UIView. We're talking about UIView because what we have on screen now, is a UI view. The orange view that we see on screen here, everybody, this is a UI view. I clicked on it, I went to my attributes inspector, and if we see view at the top here, do we see view? It doesn't say UI, but it's a UI view. Everybody with me? So that's why we decided to go to the documentation and see what the UI view has for us. There's a lot of properties and methods on there. Amini, are you on the site? All right, cool. You're welcome. So if we go back to our page, UI view, as we said, it manages the content on the screen. And one of the properties that we just changed, the first property that we just changed, if you go down to topics, where it says configuring a view's appearance, the first property we changed is called background color. It's a property. It's an instance property. It works on the instance. I could also change is hidden. Right? There's a lot of properties there I could change. Okay, cool. So let's go back here. All right. Let's navigate to the toolbar again. In the toolbar, new in Xcode 11 again, they changed where the library is. The library is where you get assets, not assets. The library is where you get UI elements to put on your view. I want my view to have a button. I want my view to have an image, right? I want my view to have some text. Where do I go for all that? I go to the library, the object library. The object library is the plus sign. Do we see the plus sign here? In the toolbar, do we see the toolbar here? Do we see the plus sign? This is the library, the object library. If you click on it, it brings up all the objects from UIKit. So all those objects that we see here is available to us via UIKit. We see a label. The label is called UI label. We see a button. The button is called UI button. If you want to add a new element to your scene or your view, you simply drag it over. So let's go ahead and drag a label over. So the label here, drag the label over. Let me zoom in here. So my label here, I could drag my label anywhere I want, right? I could just click down and drag it. And now I just want to center it here. Are we all able to add a label to our view? Okay. We could double click on it to edit it, or we could also edit it. If you click on the label, go to the attributes inspector. Again, the attributes inspector is that down arrow that I'm pointing at right now. The attributes inspector. I could edit my label name. Do we see where it says text here? I could edit the label. Remove label, I could put in whatever label I want. I could say, this is my favorite color. Press enter. And now my label looks somewhat offset center, correct? It doesn't look centered now, correct? I could simply drag my label again. Do we see the blue lines, by the way, as we shift it around? Those are called layout guidelines, right? They're enabling us to center the view or to position the view relative to some other view. So to keep it centered, I want to make sure my vertical and my horizontal lines show up. At that point, I know it's centered. Everybody with me? Right? So at this point, it is centered. I could now run my application again. Command R. Right? At this point, we should all see this is my favorite color come up on the screen. Right? So here we added a UI label. A UI label enables text on screen, as we saw. Everybody with me? So you want to have text on your screen, you add a UI label to it. So far, so good. Excellent. Okay, cool. Let's go back to the canvas. We want to access the object library again. We could click on the plus sign, right? Or we could use a shortcut for it. So Shift Command L. Shift Command L brings up the object library. What brings up the object library? Shift Command L. Ask you again tomorrow? Okay. Tomorrow. Okay, you could also search for an element that you're looking for. Where you see the search icon there, type in UIView. Type in UIView, and go ahead and drag the view over. Drag the view over, and center it right over our label. Not label, view. Command Z. So you could Command Z in your canvas or in your storyboard. Command Z gets rid of the last thing you added. Everybody with me? And then you could add it again. Shift Command L, search for the view. We're searching for UIView, and drag your UIView over, position it right on the label. Delete it. Just remove what. Click and yeah, that's it. Yeah, cool. All right. So now let's stop. Everybody, go ahead and run your application. We all had the white view over our label, correct? Okay. So let's run our app. Right now, this is not what we need, right? We have a problem there. Everybody with me? Let's go ahead and fix that. Do we see where view as iPhone is? To the left of it, do we see a small box with a vertical arrow? Okay, this is called the document outline. That small box there is called the document outline. If you click on it, it opens like a drawer type of thing. It opens up our view, basically, our view hierarchy. So here at the top, what do we have? We have the ViewController seed at the very top. Do we see that? Everybody go back. It's closed. To open up my document outline, I open with that box right there where it says document outline to the left of view as. Do we see view as? So I click on my document outline. It reveals the view hierarchy that I'm currently looking at. When I say view hierarchy, I'm talking about how my views are laid out. Currently, we started out with a blank view, right? A white view. Okay, so that white view, let's zoom in. That white view, do we see where it says ViewController? Right below ViewController, if we close ViewController and I open it, the first view in the ViewController is what? It's a view, right? That view was the white view that we changed to orange or whatever color we wanted. Everybody with me? Every ViewController has a view. I click on my view, I open my view. We'll talk about safe area for now. We'll talk about safe area, but not for today. We'll talk about safe area. I have an L here. L is for what? The label. The label we added. Remember we spoke about classes, we spoke about parents, we spoke about subclasses, everybody? Here the view is what? Is it the parent or the subclass? Right? Everybody sees that? Cassandra? So the view is a class. The view is the parent of those subviews here. Label is a subclass of the view. This other view here is also a subclass of my main view. Everybody with me? Did you open up the document outline? Yeah. Where are you not, sir?
No, I'm here. I don't have view. I'm trying to find it.
Did you open up the document outline?
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, you see how you have the subclass view?
Because you haven't added it probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find out.
So let's add it again. So let's add it again. I'll delete it. Right? To add it, Command Shift L. Type in UIView. Right? Type in UIView.
Oh, I think this is matter if capitalizing
No.
now. Oh, so that's
Okay? And drag that view over. Here. Cool? Cool?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. So now let's go back and talk about our view hierarchy here.
Is view up?
I will talk about it again. Okay, so we agreed that the parent is the first view we had. We said Xcode new project, we get the default view is that view. We started adding new elements to our scene. Every element we add to our scene becomes a subview of the view. Everybody with me? Imagine you have some blank canvas and somebody just starts adding, everybody starts adding things to that canvas. What you add in becomes a subview of that canvas. Everybody with me? We added a label. We gave the label some text. This was a subview. Everybody with me? Now I added the view. The view I added the last view I added, positioned itself on top of the label. Do we see that? Everybody sees that. That's why we had our label beneath our view. We don't want that, right? So let's fix that. Let me zoom out. One way to fix it is to simply drag. You could drag views around in the document outline. Let's go back to the document outline. I'm going to drag my view, the last view I added. I'll drag it over the label. It's like Photoshop, that's good. Bringing good experience here. I'm sorry? So that's good, that's good. Bringing experience to the table is good. Everybody should now have their label above the view. Yes? Okay, go ahead and run your application. Oh, yeah, sure. Let me stop it and do it again. Okay, let me Control Z. That should work there. Okay, great. You have this, correct, Matt? All right. If anybody is still here, what we did, in the document outline, I'm going to zoom in on the document outline. Zoom out, zoom in better. Click on the view. Click on the last view we added. Everybody with me? I'm going to click and drag, mouse click and drag over the label. Sorry. Right? Everybody? Matt, do you get that outcome? Okay, perfect. Everybody's on the same page? How are we doing? We good? And run, make sure that it is as it should be.
Wait. Why do you got those pretty borders?
What pretty borders? I don't have no borders. You're seeing things. All right. At this point, we should all have a background or orange, whatever color you have. And you should have a sub view, which is the view, the white view. And in that sub view, you have the label. So far, so good? So far, so good. All right, great. Let's add some more elements then. All right, let's go to the object library. So how do we get to the object library? Okay, cool. And let's type in UI button. So type in UI button and drag the button over. We'll position the button right below our white view here. So make sure that you're using the blue guidelines as the center, and you could put the button anywhere you want. Okay? So far, so good? Okay, great. So I have a button here. Great. A button is a UI control. If we click on the button and we go to the attribute inspector, let us get to the attribute inspector here. Does everybody see button in the attribute inspector? Okay, cool. Let's talk about that a little while. So here we have a button. A button inherits from a UI control. If you look down, do you see control here? Okay, so a button inherits from a UI control. A UI control inherits from a view. Everybody with me? Whatever a view has, the button could have as well. Right? Everybody with me? Great. So we have a UI control, we have a button. A button allows us to take user action. Like the user taps on the button, we expect something to happen. Everybody with me? Our objective, if the user taps on button or clicks on button, we want our background color to change. Everybody with me? So this here is called target action. We saw it probably in the lesson. We have target action, right? The user targets, they click on my button, an action happens. I want to change my background color to blue or to a different, whatever color I want to change it to. Everybody with me? For purposes of here, we'll change it to blue. Everybody with me? Okay, cool. So that is called target action. That takes us more into interface builder and linking this storyboard. This is a storyboard to our code. We haven't seen code yet. Now we'll start seeing what code looks like along with that user interface that we have. To review, we have one scene. We have a main scene. You could recognize a main scene by that arrow, the blue arrow. That's the main entry point. One scene for now. Only one view. Our app has one view. This is our view. We haven't seen what manages the view yet. We'll see what manages the view. But what manages that view is called a view controller. Okay? Say that again. The view that we're looking at right now. Okay? I haven't changed anything. I just added a button. Did you add the button? That's all. We haven't added anything else. Just want to make sure I'm not losing anything before I continue here. So this here is a scene. We added UI elements to our scene. We added a button. We added a view. And we added a label. We spoke about the document outline and how to get to the document outline. Next up, let's see what the assistant editor looks like. Again, Xcode 11 changed and moved certain things around. So if you're looking at older tutorials, you might see a different interface. Everybody go ahead and click or navigate to where I am now. Let's see. Do we all see this menu type item here? Click on it. Do you see assistant? I'll do it again. Do we all see this? Mr. Adam? Okay. Are you in Storyboard? Are you in our view that we just changed? Okay, did you click on that menu item right there? Dan, just see on screen what I'm doing. Click on that editor menu. Do we see assistant? Click on assistant. Click on assistant. Assistant should open up a new window. Did it open up a new window? That window is the window that manages that scene we have. That window here, it should start off by saying class ViewController. Do we see that? That ViewController manages that UI. Does he have Xcode 11? Okay, cool.
No, it's just I clicked outside.
Oh, got it. Okay, so let's do that again. Let's do that again for anybody who was lost here. Move. It's at the bottom. You could move it. For now, close it. There's a close window. 1 second. 1 second. Close it. And let's see. All that is like new to Xcode here. We'll come around and help you to move it. For now, keep it where it is. All right, cool. So let's see. So we said assistant editor. Adan, are you on assistant editor? Great, that's all we did. So you have your view controller on your right, and you have your scene, your view on your left. Some people might have it at the bottom. We'll move it around later. We'll show you how to move that. That's also new in Xcode 11. Bottom or left, it doesn't matter. All right, let's talk about the view controller. So this is a class. Everybody, right? We have a view controller. It's a class. Everybody with me? What's that colon? What does that signify here? Anybody want to tell me what that means? The colon UIViewController. What does that say? Inherits. Very good. So my view controller inherits from UIViewController class. Very good. It's a class. It inherits from a UIViewController class. Very good. Great. And here we're starting to see override, right? So my view controller overrides the ViewDidLoad from the parent. We saw override last week, right? When we spoke about classes and overriding methods. Yes? So the override keyword here is familiar. This is a function, and the name of the function is ViewDidLoad. Great. If you put, everybody follow along here. Everybody should have the same line number, I think. Do we see line 15? Line 15 for everybody is a comment, right? Click on line 15. Where it says line 15, just click on line 15. We all should now have a blue arrow. Do we have that? That arrow is called a breakpoint. Here we set a breakpoint at line 15. Everybody with me? Yes? So we set a breakpoint at line 15. Go ahead and run your application. We might think our app crashed, right? The app did not crash. It stopped at the breakpoint. Everybody with me? It stopped at the breakpoint. At this point, you should have a screen very similar to mine, where at line 16, there's like a light blue line, green line, sorry. Do we all have that? Excellent. Now let's get introduced to a next area of Xcode. Focus on the bottom of my screen. The bottom area of my screen, those two columns we see here, this is the debug area. This is known as the debug area. If you go back to the lesson, somewhere, this is the debug area. You see on the lesson, it says debug area here. That's the bottom center portion. On the right side, this is the environment variables. On the left side, sorry, those are the environment variables. On the right side, basically that's the console or any print statements you have. That's the console area. We've seen that in command line many times. That's all we've seen as far as like UI of the application, right? Let's go back to our application. So at this point, my app has stopped. It stopped at the breakpoint. Now I could go ahead and debug my code. For example, if there's some variable I want to see the value of the variable, I could do it here. One way to debug at a breakpoint is to use PO. PO stands for print out. So simply type out PO. Where it says LLDB here, do we see LLDB, the green LLDB? So if you simply type out PO, print out, space, view, right? As I said before, all view controllers have a property called view. Do we see view in anywhere here? In our class, do we see view explicitly anywhere? No, it comes from the parent. That view that I typed out comes from the parent of the view controller, okay? Every view controller has a view. Go ahead and press enter. Oh, sorry. Press enter on view. Let me zoom in here. You type in PO space view, all lowercase, and press enter. So this is all what we typed out. PO space lowercase view. Everybody? Just view. Was everybody able to type that out? Was everybody able to type that out? Did we all get some result, like some view, some frame? This is very similar to mine. Okay, so that here tells us about the view. It tells us the frame size of the view. In that case, the frame size is 414 by 896. The first two zeros is the X and Y. Right? So a view has a frame. Every view has a frame. So this is the frame of the view. We'll talk more about frames later. But every view has a frame. Like, how do I know where I am? I have a frame. In our case, our frame is 0, 0. 0, 0 is the top. 0, 0 is the top left corner of the device. Everybody with me? Everybody, please. 0, 0 is the top left side of the device. That's where 0, 0 is. That's the origin. X and Y. That's X and Y origin at 0, 0. 414 is the width of my view. The 414 here, that's the width of the view. Okay? Anybody knows what 896 is? The height. Thank you, sir. So the first one is X, second is Y, third is the width, and fourth is the height of that view. Yes, sir. The view, the iPhone 8, the what do we have there? The 11 Pro Max, yeah. That's specific to the 11 Pro Max. But we do not hard code numbers. When we had one iPhone, that was not a problem. We had one iPhone for a while, so we said hard code it, 320 by 480, we're done. But now you don't hard code numbers because the device, you don't know the size of it. So we use auto layout. So we'll see what that looks like. Everybody with me? All right, cool. We used to make fun of Android. Oh, they have so many devices. Now we have a lot of devices as well. So careful who you laugh at. Okay, so, oh, let me put my breakpoint back, sorry. So next up, let's PO again. This time I want to see if my view has a super view. Right? So I did PO view.superview. Anybody knows, does my view have a super view? We started out with a view, a white view. Does that view have a super view? I'm sorry? The first view we started with, does it have a parent?
No. I thought it was ViewController.
No, ViewController is what's managing it. It's a property on ViewController. Does it have a parent? No, right? All right, let's see. Nil! You guys are correct. It doesn't have a parent. Right? So I did view.superview. It doesn't have a parent class in that case. Everybody with me? The first white view we had, were there any other elements there when we first created our application? So that's the answer we just got. No. But does our view have subviews? Right? So if you want to see what that looks like, you PO view.subviews. It makes sense. What type is subviews? What data type? Based on what I have on screen, what data type is subviews? According to a mini, it's an array of UI views. Do we see that? Right? We see the square bracket UI view in there. It's an array of UI views, which makes sense. Let's press enter. And let's press enter again. And look, how many elements do we have? 3. And it shows them all. We have a UI view, which is the white one we have, the one embedded. We have a label. It even shows us the text of the label. Do we see the text? Right? It even shows us the text, my favorite color. And then we have a button. So here we have 3 elements, 3 subviews of our view. We also saw that in the view hierarchy, correct? When we did the document outline, right? So let's exit out of here. You can't PO without, you can't PO, like if I run the application, go ahead, remove the breakpoint. Let me back that up. So if you have a breakpoint here, remove the breakpoint by dragging it out. Just simply drag it out and run the app again. At this point, you cannot debug using PO because the app is running. There's no breakpoint. There's no place to debug. So what we just did, we had to have a breakpoint in order to use PO to see what the view is. So to investigate a view or anything you want to investigate, you have to use a breakpoint where you expect that to be. And the reason why it stopped at ViewDidload, let's run it again. Put a breakpoint at ViewDidload, run the app again. Right? ViewDidload is the only method right now we have in our ViewController. That's the entry point. When your view comes on screen, that function gets called. Remember we said you have to call a function explicitly? Everybody? Right? You have to call a function explicitly. There's no way we call in ViewDidload. Is that correct? There's no way, there's no place in that class we call it explicitly ViewDidload parents. That's the definition of the function. Everybody with me? But the ViewController itself calls ViewDidload. That's part of the view cycle for the ViewController. We'll get through view cycles of ViewControllers, which one gets called in what order. But for now, we have the ViewDidLoad. That's all we have right now in our boilerplate code. That gets called when your view comes on screen. When I run my application and I see my orange view with that inner view, that function gets called. It's like, hey, I'm on screen now. You could do anything else you want to do. Everybody with me? One of the things we could do, go ahead and edit our code here. In the you guys not telling me the font is small. I guess we didn't code yet, right? That's why. All right. Everybody in ViewDidload. Again, it's an override function from the parent. Here we're calling super ViewDidload. Super, basically for now, just know that super.ViewDidload just calls its parent if in case its parent needs to do anything extra. For now, that's all we need to know. But we could write our own code in here. We could say view. Remember I said every view controller has a view property. Every view controller has a view property. Everybody? We saw what that looked like earlier when we went to the view, the UIView documentation. So I could say view dot background color. View is a UI view. Background color is a property on a UI view. Every view has a background color. Everybody with me? Here I could say equal to, what data type is background color? What data type is background color? What is background color expected? What type? Is it a Boolean? Is it a string? A string? Exercise. Google, somebody, find out what is the data type of background color. UI color, thank you. Did you Google? Look at that. Anna went back to the documentation. Anna went to the documentation for UIView, which we select out. She went to UIView. She went down to background color here. She went down to background color. What data type is background color? And Anna said it's UI color. Everybody with me? This is the time now we have to start being able to use resources, whether it be Google, documentation, right? So here, the data type for background color is expecting some sort of UI color. And it's optional, might not exist, okay? So let's go back, thank you, Anna. Here I could say UI color dot green color or blue, whatever color you want to choose. Command B is to build your application. Let's make sure we do not have our breakpoint. Remove your breakpoint. If you have a breakpoint like that, just remove it by dragging it out. So here we have our view property on that view controller, and we get access to the background color of the view, and we update to blue. If it works, it should change from orange that I have to blue. Let's go ahead and test it. Command R. Look at that, it changed the thing. Did it change for you guys? Yours is still launching, it's gonna finish launch very soon. Right, so whatever we do in Interface Builder, meaning the first time we change background color here, we could do in code. Everybody with me? We're coders at the end of the day. We're not click and drag developers. Remove. In ViewDidload, we simply wrote view that background color and assigned it a new color. If your color was blue, making it blue, you're not going to see the change. So whatever your color was, change it to something different. Everybody with me? Yes. Are you launching in a new simulator? What simulator are you launching on? Which you launched on before? Which one did you launch on before? Okay, why is it, did it finally launch? Is it still launching? Close Xcode and reopen it. Everybody else, are yours launched? Yours is not changing? Okay. How we doing? Good. What's the warning? If you see warnings about layout, don't worry about the warnings for now. We'll take care of the warnings when we talk about auto layout. Everybody with me?
Yeah, mine is not watching
Command R.
When I do it, it adds like a number. So if it was 3, then I click.
Close Xcode and relaunch it. Close Xcode. If you're having launching issues, close Xcode, reopen it, and run it again. Okay, cool. Everybody got their color to change. Did everybody get the color to change? How are we doing? We good? Can we go on? Wait. Still trying to open? Okay. Yes, sir. I don't understand. Yeah. You can. Yeah. I keep hearing Xcode. I didn't hear Hexcode. Yeah. Okay. So here we have UI color, right? Let's see what UI color is. So command click on UI color, jump to definition. Yes, sir.
So the code, does it only change in the simulator or does it change in the screen? This is a lot.
No, you're perfect. Yeah, because you started out with orange and you now at blue because your code worked. If your code did not work, you could simply, that's where the debugging would come in. You could simply put a breakpoint at 18, run your application again, and PO what the background color is. All right. Okay, let's go back to the project navigator and connect our button. Click on the folder that says project navigator. Let me zoom in here. Do we see that blue folder right below the red dot that says close Xcode? Do we see the blue folder? Okay, click on it so that takes you back to your project files.
Oh, it's not blue.
What?
It's not blue when it's not selected.
Yeah. So go ahead and comment out what we just typed in. Comment out the background color. Click on the storyboard. So click on the storyboard. Do you have a storyboard, your orange view, and do you have code on your right? Yes? Okay, cool. The comment out is on that page here, the one that says ViewController. Yeah, we only have one code page so far. Okay, to create more space, you could close out your inspectors column. You close out your inspectors column by clicking on that right topmost box there, the one that's blue currently. Click on it, closes that column. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? Okay, so now we have more space here on our small screens. Scroll down. Let me also close the navigator area. Get more space going. We spoke about target action before. Now let's do our first target action. So here I want to control drag. The user clicks on the button. I want some action to happen. This is called target action, right? So what I want to do as the developer, I want to control drag from the button element on my left over to my ViewController code on the right, right? So control drag. So go ahead, click on control, hold down control. Hold down control. What's the question? Oh, assistant. So let me close that and let me show you again. So close it. Right now you only have your storyboard, right? Right. So to see it, click on your ViewController scene, right? Okay. Do you see where my warning is, that little orange warning here? Yeah. Do you see to the right of it, that menu item, the editor's menu? Click on it. Do you see assistant? Click on that. And that opens up the assistant. Very good. Okay, so at this point, we have, yes, let's talk about control drag. So you want to control drag from the button over to the view controller. Let's see what that looks like. So click on the button, click on button, control, hold down the control button, hold down the control button, and drag. Drag. As you drag in, you should have this blue line following you, right? Yes? And drag anywhere below outside your ViewDidload, by the way, not inside. It's not even going to let you do it. Outside, everybody, and release. Release, and let's talk about what we have here. Okay, so here we're about to create an action. We're about to create an action for our button. The connection is called an action. Makes sense? So far, so good. Next up, we have the object. We have our view controller. We only have one view controller right now. Everybody with me? Next up, we have the name. We need a name here. We'll give it a name. We'll call it color. You start off with a lowercase. It's a function name. Color change. Button pressed. So you start out with a lowercase and camel case from there, right? So color change button pressed. For the type, we'll change any. So where it says type here, we'll change any to UI button. It's a UI button. We know it's a UI button. Why leave it as any? So here, change type to UI button. Touch up inside will leave the same. Touch up inside simply means when the user touches inside that button, trigger this action. So for now, touch up inside, leave alone. For the most part, when you delete a button, that's the default you'll be using. Touch up inside. Okay? The sender here is the button itself. The button itself is the sender. That's going to be the argument or the parameter name. At this point, you filled out all the required parameters. Press connect. Press connect. Look at that. We have a lot of things that we got to talk about now. If it never changes. Oh, are you dragging from the button? Did it connect already? If you've connected already, let one of us help you unconnect until we see what that looks like, because that could lead to more errors. So Antonio has you. Thank you, sir. Okay, yes. Scroll up. You could take out that code. That was just for testing. IB action. Oh, that's fine. You could copy it, like you made it went above. If your function went above, you could simply copy out the whole function and put it where below the ViewDidload. But ideally, you want your IB action function to be below your ViewDidload. Everybody with me? Okay. So here we have, forget about the IB action part for now, right? This basically is, we've seen this. This is a function. Everybody with me? It's another function. Okay? We've seen functions before. It's a function. It has a parameter. The parameter argument is called sender. What is the type of sender? What's the data type of sender? It's a UI button. So far, so good, right? So that's the parameter that comes in. It makes sense. Our button got pressed, so it passes itself. Let's talk about IB action. First time we're seeing that. IB, anybody want to tell me what IB stands for? Interactive button, that's good actually. Interface builder. We spoke about interface builder before, lightly. This is interface builder here. The area where that scene is, where we could drag in UI elements, is known as interface builder. Everybody with me? It's also known as a storyboard. There's a lot of names there. But let me take you back a little bit. So IB, interface builder. Before, it was a separate application, right? Xcode now is this massive one piece of software. Xcode before was segmented. There was, even now it's still a bit, right? There's applications outside of Xcode that is working with Xcode. But IB, or Interface Builder, was its own separate application. Everybody with me? So when it got integrated into Xcode, the name stayed, right? Where you could do what you see, what you get, like the WYSIWYG part of it, that's called Interface Builder. That area where we're working in, that canvas area here with our view, the orange view, is known as Interface Builder. Everybody with me? Its legacy name, it stayed, it sticked. So this is called Interface Builder. Everybody with me? But it's still a storyboard. It's the main storyboard. We have one storyboard right now. That's our storyboard. But in here is Interface Builder. IB is Interface Builder. That's where it's coming from, that IB prefix. Let's go back to it. So that IB prefix here, IB, stands for Interface Builder. The @ symbol here is a compiler directive. It's Objective-C runtime, right? We won't get into all that specifics now, but know that @IB is a compiler directive. It lets the compiler know, hey, I have a connection. I have to provide this little circle here so I could have a connection. That way the compiler knows. If you just simply say function like this, like function testing like that, the compiler, there's no information for the compiler to know what this function is. Is it some sort of action somewhere? The compiler doesn't know. So how will the compiler know how to connect a button to a function? By control dragging. By prefixing our function with @IB action. Everybody saw the circle come up? Right? The minute I said IB action here, the circle came up. So basically that IB action gives you access, or gives Xcode access to connect your button to some function. Everybody with me? So the functionality of IB action, that's its functionality. To give Xcode the ability to make the control drag connect to your function. Everybody with me? If I simply move that IB away, my circle is gone. Everybody with me? Very good. So that's what IB action gives us, that ability to connect. Because now, as you see, you hover over the circle, you see your view controller is also highlighted, right? Your button is also highlighted. Everybody with me? Let's disconnect it and reconnect it, just to get used to it. If I want to disconnect this button, say for example, oh, I don't want to connect that button anymore. I could right-click on the button, right-click on it. Everybody right-click on it, right? Do you see where it says touch up inside here? Let me zoom in. Do you see where it says touch up inside? Do you see sent events? We see sent events, correct? Okay, so if I click on that cross arrow, or the X arrow here, it disconnects it. Do we see that? Let me reconnect and let's do it again. Right-click on the button. Right-click on the button. It brings up this dialog. Everybody sees the dialog. Do we see sent events? Do we see sent events? If we scroll down, do we see touch up inside? Do we see touch up inside? Right below touch drag outside, do we see touch up inside? If you go to that second connection here, do you see an X arrow, an X circle there? Click on it. Click on it. It disconnects the connection. Everybody? If you click on it, it disconnects the connection. You'll come to many scenarios where you want to disconnect the connection. This is one way to do it. Everybody with me? Between the button and the function. That control drag you did, it disconnected the connection. If you do disconnect the connection successfully, your circle, your filled circle now becomes empty, correct? Okay, great. One other way to connect a button to an IB action is to drag from your circle back to your button. No, that's fine. So one way to reconnect it, we disconnected at this point, right? One way to reconnect it is to simply drag, no control drag, just simply drag from my circle, over to my button and release. Yes? Perfect. Okay, let's zoom. Okay, cool. So here, let's write a simple print statement in my color change function to simply say button pressed. Mr. Dan, did you edit your code?
No, where would that print?
Edit your code first. So in the color change button, add a line that says print button pressed. Again, we spoke about target action. Let's see if it actually works. If the user presses on that button, does it work? Does button press get printed out? That's what we're after. Everybody with me? Right? A label is not a control. A button is a control. A control controls something, right? They couldn't pick a better name. A button is a control. A switch is a control. Also a UI element. A label is not a control. Everybody with me? I can click on my label and expect something to happen. But if the user clicks on that like button, they expect it to be a full heart. Everybody with me? Question? Yes. According to Tanya, looking forward here, before we even do our print statement, that's where we'll actually add our change in color logic. Yes. But for now, run your code. And click on the button and verify that indeed you do see button pressed. Do we see button pressed? Do we see button pressed when we click on the button? Yeah, it's only a print statement. It's only Xcode. So when you click, as many times as you click, button press gets printed, correct?
How do we print it to the view?
Oscar, did you get button press to show up?
Yeah.
All right, very good. If you want to clear your console, one way to clear your console, well, in terminal, how do we clear our console in terminal? Clear, right? So here we have a trash can. If you go down to the bottom right, do you see a trash can? Click on the trash can, it clears your console. Everybody? Very cool. All right, great, great, great. Now, Miss Tanya said we could change our color in here. Everybody agree? When the user clicks on the button, we want to change it to some color, right? I'll start out by changing it to some color. How can we change the background color? We did it before. I want to change the background color to red. How do I change it? View.background color. What else? Can I also do this? Is that valid?
Yeah. Wait, where are you going to get the rest from?
Background color knows it's a color, it's expected. So Swift being this awesome language, we do not have to type in the whole UI color dot red, right? So before we did UI color, right? Like this, everybody? So Swift infers you're referring to a UI color. So you do not explicitly have to put in UI color like that. As a matter of fact, it might be even frowned upon if you submit code like that in certain places, right? So yes, like why are you using UI color? Don't you know you just dot syntax and be done?
Oh, I thought dot syntax. So you just leave it like that?
That's preferred. So here we have view.background color equal to dot red. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? All right, let's test our code. Run the application, Command R. Run the application, Command R. Does it change to red? Very good. Does mine change to red? Click on background button. Great, perfect. It's red, awesome. Okay, other things we want to change. Let me take a step back. If, for example, you did not enter your color here, and you're like, oh, I thought I added the color, like it's not working. The best way to find out if something is working or not is to put a breakpoint where the function is expected to be called. Everybody with me? If I was supposed to put my background color here, I put a breakpoint here. If I run the application again, I run the application, breakpoint doesn't get triggered, right? Everybody with me? Earlier, we had the breakpoint in the ViewDidload. It got triggered right away. Why? Because ViewDidload gets called by my ViewController. Everybody with me? Right now, the only way to trigger my color change button is what? Is to actually press on the button. So if I press on the button, my breakpoint gets activated. Then I'm like, oh, I forgot to add my ViewController, my background color equals to red. Everybody with me? So start using breakpoints. We'll come across you guys. We'll enforce breakpoints. You'll come to us. I have an error. My background is not changing. We'll tell you, did you set a breakpoint? You'll say no. Right? So think of what functions should be calling and put a breakpoint there. Oh, my data is not correct. My name is not correct. The string is wrong. All those things. We could use breakpoints. We could use PO and do things. All right, so here, let me put my code back. And let's run. We'll come to that. We should be able to come to that today with more context, because right now we don't have too much context. But you could basically press, we'll come to it. All right. All right, so now I want to say, I change it to red. I also want this label to change. When I change it to red, I want the label to change, right? We've seen how to create an IB action, but now we have to create something that's called an IB outlet. An IB outlet enables you to change or to access your properties, right? So let's see what that looks like. I want to be able to update my label. How do I update my label? First of all, get back to your storyboard, the main storyboard. Click on main storyboard. If you do not have your assistant editor open, meaning you don't have your view on one side and your view controller on the other side, make sure that you select your view. Where did it run? And make sure that your assistant editor is selected, right? Let me go back here. So storyboard and editor and assistant. So at this point, we all have our two panes, correct? We have our view one side and our view controller on the other side. Our code one side and our view on the other side, correct? 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 Yes. All right, feedback, guys, please. Okay, so now I want to create an outlet for my label. I want to be able to access my label. Right now, there's no way for me to access my label here. I do not have a property for my label. Everybody with me? The label exists, but I don't have a handle on that label. So to create a handle on that label, we love control dragging. You can create some more space. We will control drag right between our open curly and above our override function. Everybody with me? We're going to control drag right around line 13 here. All right, so just create some space if you don't have. So click on the label. Click on the thing you want to have access to. We could also have access to a button. Anything you want to change its properties. Click on it. In that case, it's the label, correct? So now I'm on the label. I control drag from the label. From the label, not the view. Let me do that again. I'm not on the view, not the view. Make sure we're selecting the label. Everybody, click on the label, the one that says, this is my favorite color. Click on it and make sure that is highlighted. Okay? Control drag from it over to your view controller. You should start seeing insert outlet, correct? That little box that's following me here, do we see it? It says insert outlet, correct? At this point, release. And let's go back to this one. So here, before, what connection did we have for the button? What connection? We had an action, correct? According to my jet here, we had an action, correct? Shania? Yes? Amini, what did we have before? The button, was the button an outlet or what connection? Was it an outlet or an action? It was an action. So here we have our label, the connection is an outlet, the object is still the view controller, and the name, we'll just call it display label. The type is a UI label. And we have weak here, weak and strong. For now, for the purposes of today, know that weak is a memory issue here. The view controller doesn't want to be tied in with the label, so it's making a weak pointer to it. For now, that's it. We're not going to go deeper with that. For now, it's a weak pointer, okay, between the view controller and that label. Everybody with me? Okay, it's a weak pointer, it's a class. Right, we'll talk about references and strong references and memory cycles. Okay, so here we have weak and click connect. So make sure it's an outlet, view controller, the label has a name, lowercase, not uppercase. UI label, it's weak, and connect. Great, so let's talk about what's an outlet. So before we saw an action, as the name defines, an action, the user taps on something, some action happens. Our action is tied into some function. Everybody with me? Our outlet here gives us access to a property. Now I could change my label. The outlet is an outlet from the view scene, to my code. So in code, I now have access to that view element. I now have access to that label. I could change that label to whatever I want. Yes, it's a property now. Yeah, it's a property now, so weak_var is an instance variable. All right, cool. So we have our label. It is, let's talk about that a little bit, very shortly, not too much. Here we have our UI label. It's an optional. Remember I said we'll talk about implicit optionals? Even today, we'll still not really talk about implicit optionals. But here we have, it looks like it's a force unwrapping, but it's implicit unwrapping. Meaning, I know at some point this is going to have a value, right? It isn't optional. I know at some point it will have a value, so I'm going to go ahead and unwrap it anyway. So this is called implicit unwrapping. We could just put some notes here. Implicit unwrapping of an optional. And then weak is optimizing feature. We will talk about basically the view controller will have a weak reference to the label outlet. More space. All right, so here we have implicit unwrapping with UI label exclamation mark here. We spoke about weak. We said IB is what? What's IB again? Interactive button? That was clever. I like that. Interface builder, right? And it's a compiler directive at IB outlet. Lets the compiler know that this is a variable, this is an instance variable, but it's also a connection to some element on screen, right? Also a connection to some element on screen in our code, we could now dynamically update that label. Before that, we had no access to our label. There was no way to access our label. But now we have a direct connection to our label. And we'll go ahead and update our label. So here in our IB action, for color button changed, we changed the color. So now we could say display label is a label, right? It's a label. On that label, we have a property called text. So on the UI label, we have a property called text. So you type display label.text, it expects a string. So that text, it expects some string, right? The string will say, the background color is red. So currently we have, this is my favorite background color, correct? It starts like that, the app starts, this is my favorite background color, correct? Now go ahead and run the application, click on the button, and the label should change along with the color of the background. So Command R. And click on button, and the background color should change. Everybody? Right? We have a little bug here because my whole color is not showing up. We could fix that. Let's go back to Interface Builder or Storyboard. And simply, we could extend or make our label longer by basically dragging our label. So your label, you could basically click anywhere on your label, left or right, to make it longer, left or right. To make it higher or taller, then you want to click on one of the middle handles. But for extending that label, you could click on the right or the left side and make it longer by just dragging. Click on the label and drag it so it gets longer. Everybody? Does it get longer? Right? So here we'll just make it touch basically the white view, like that. That's good. The next thing we could do, it's not centered. Is it centered? No. So let's go to Attributes Inspector. Do we know where Attributes Inspector is? What's that? Yeah, so if we open up the Inspectors window, that opens up the Inspectors window here. I go to Attributes Inspector, which is this blue icon. Make sure that your label is selected as you go to Attributes Inspector. Everybody with me? So click on the label, click on Attributes Inspector, and go down to where it says Alignment. Do we see Alignment? And then we click on Center. The second one says Center. If you hover over it, it tells you what it is. So we have left aligned, we have center aligned, right aligned here. So if I click on Center, my label should be updated better than it was before. Right? Does that look center of the view? Does it look center now? All right, thank you. So now we have, go ahead and run the app again. Make sure you're not getting ellipses still. You could also make your view wider by just dragging it. So here we have the favorite color, that whole thing is showing. If I click on the button, that whole thing shows. The button color is red, great. I want more buttons now. So your task, with some help here, is to add 2 other buttons. Add one for green and one for blue. So what we do, let's name this like red probably. You could double click on the button icon and change the text. The first one will be red, right? Everybody? Let me zoom in. Zoom, zoom, zoom. All right, that's better. Okay, so we have a red icon. Oh, sorry, red button, red text. You could move it around, as I said before. I could move my red over by dragging it. I could drag it into any position I want. So I'm going to drag it where it left aligns with my blue guideline. Do we see that? My red button, I'm dragging it. I'm dragging it to the left side. Everybody? Because I need to position 2 more buttons. So we have red. To add a second button of the same type, I could copy and paste. So you could simply copy the button. I could Command C and Command V. 1 second. But we're not going to do that. Right? To get a similar button, what we'll do is Option click on the button, and drag. A second button just comes out from nowhere. Let me do that again. So click on the red button. Everybody, hold down the Option key. Click on the red button. Hold down on the Option key. Are we ready? We ready? Okay, Option click and drag. If you drag, you should also have a second button with you, correct? I'll position it to the right. Position it to the right. Make sure the blue guidelines are stopping it here. So you don't want to extend, like you don't want to go here. You want to use the blue guidelines for your help here. So I'm using the vertical blue, and I'm using the horizontal blue as well. So it's centered with my first button. Should we do it again? Should we do it again? Okay, so let's Command Z here. We all have one button. Stop me if you don't, because that's earlier, right? We all have one button. So far, so good. I'll hold down on the Option key. I'll click on my button, select my button, hold down on the Option key. Yes? Hold down on the Option key and drag my mouse. Drag my mouse. For the dragging part, the center. Right? Are we all able to drag? Okay, so at this point, you could drop it on the right side, align it with the right view, the white part of the white view, align it there, and make sure that it's also centered vertically, right? So at this point, it should look very similar to what I have. The blue guidelines centered vertically and horizontally, correct? Okay, we need one more button. So Option click and drag it to the center. Option click, drag it to the center. Stop me if you're having issues. Okay, at this point we have 3. Well, I need to get this guy here. If you feel a little bit frustrated, it takes a bit getting used to the mouse there and dragging, but don't feel too overwhelmed by it. Okay, so we have 3 buttons. So far, so good. All right. Everybody has 3 buttons. To avoid us from making any errors, actually, that's fine. It all goes to the same function, which is good. No problem. So here, just double click on the name of the red and change it to green. Double click on green. Oh, sorry, red, change it to green. Let me zoom in some more so we could see. So we have red, green, and the last one, double click on the button and change it to blue. How we doing? Good? Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So let's get some more space here. At this point, we know how to navigate the columns. If you hover over your circle right by your IB action, all 3 buttons should be highlighted, correct? Yes? Okay, that basically means any button that you press, the same function gets called. So far, so good. So far, so good. Okay, perfect. Cool. So next thing we'll do here, let's edit, because now not everything is red, correct? So let's redo our code. Let's start from scratch. So take out line 25 and 26. And let's get some more space. Close my document outline, don't need that for now. Make that smaller. A lot of it is like trying to get as much space as you can for whatever you're working on currently. In our case, we're trying to code, so let's get some more space for coding. Okay, great. We love guard, so why not use guard? Here we're trying to say, whatever the button title is, I'll take the title and I'll set my color based on that title. Okay? Everybody with me? Yes? Yes, very good. Very, very good. But the thing is, the title label is optional. Yeah. That's where we headed. So based on what the user presses, we'll change the color of the background. Everybody with me? So that's the first real logic we're doing as far as like tying our view with code. Everybody with me? Yulia, how you doing? You good? You up to par? You with us here? You mean the second button here? Okay, cool. So let's write some code. So here, my button is my sender. Let's just see why it's an optional, why we need to unwrap it. So here we have our title label. We after the title label text. So this is what I need. Right? Do we all see it's a string optional? Okay, so that's why we need to unwrap it. I want to unwrap the title of my button and see what it is. So for that, I will use a guard, because guard is a method in which we could unwrap something. And not just unwrap that thing, but also have the value that we unwrapped throughout our function. So guard is perfect for that. So here we'll say guard. I'll call it button title. Don't forget let here. Let button title equal to sender, which is a button. And sender is a button. We all agree that sender is a button. So here we say sender dot title label. Title label as it's a label. We've seen a label before. To get to the text of a label, how do you get to the text of a label? Dot text, right? The label by itself, you can say label equal to string. That'd be a compiler error. If you say label equal to string, that's a compiler error. To get to the actual text of that label, you need to say label.text. Everybody with me? That's what we did earlier with our label. Well, we removed it, but that's what we did earlier. So here I say text. And it's an optional. So I unwrap it here and I return. At this point, using a guard, we have access to the button title. Sorry, what's happening here? Did I take out something? Title label, text. Yeah, the question mark after this guy refuses to put it. Sorry. Thank you. All right. So here we have an optional title label, and the text is also optional. So here we're using optional chaining and optional binding along with guard. So at this point, we have our button title. So we have our button title here. It's a string, it's no longer optional. This piece of code is going to be used a lot, right? Just like unwrapping something using guard. So make a note to yourself if you're uncomfortable with it. Going over it multiple times is good. Understanding it is good. So here, guard let, very similar to if let, but in if let, we would have access to button title only in the if let block. Everybody with me? But here we have access to button title outside of the guard on line 29. Okay. We'll use a switch on our button title. We'll say case red, for example. And here, be sure to make it a lowercase. You'll get issues if you don't. So we're forcing it to be lowercase. So even if the user puts in, or the title is all uppercase, this still works. So here we have case red. Case red, what do we want to do for case red? We want to say display label dot text equal to the background color is red. And we also want to do the view exactly. Thank you, sir. Red. That's not all. It's a string. It's not exhaustive, so we have to exhaust it. So go ahead, do red, do blue, do green. Or green and blue, sorry. So do a case for green, bless you, and do a case for blue. And do we need a default? Why? Exactly, thank you, sir. The string cannot be exhaustive. So here we'll have a default. And we'll just make the thing white. Background color equal to white. So here we have red, we have green, and we have blue. So blue is blue, background color is blue, background color here is green, background color here is green. And keep in mind, we could refactor this and just set get the color value and just set using string interpolation at the bottom here. So that could be refactored. But for the purposes of what we're doing now, this is fine. If you've typed it out, you could test it, run it, give us a thumbs up if it works for you. Yes, sir. Anybody else working yet? Very good, thank you, sir. If yours is working, for now, go to the lesson, scroll all the way down to where it says red image, blue image, green image. Do you see that in the lesson, Christian? In the lesson, today's lesson. Yeah, like somewhere at the bottom. Number 9, do you see number 9? Download those images to your desktop somewhere. So click on each image individually and download it. Yes, sir. Did you run it? Are all your buttons connected? How do you verify it? What was that?
I accidentally named the colors uppercase, so they put it first.
Make sure you put lowercase. Did you put lowercase?
No, yeah, I mean, like,
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Got it.
yeah, that probably is my colors are all uppercase.
Shouldn't matter if you put lowercase down there, as long as the case is a lowercase. It's not working? I thought I just changed that this morning. Did I not commit? Does the red? May I see what the? Let me see what the red looks like. Did I not commit this? I'll just stack out the images. I thought I changed that, the link on that one. I'll slack out the images. Let me do that now. What's that? Delete it. If you make an extra box that you don't need the box, right? So delete it. Click on it, click on the box, and then press delete. All right, give me a second to grab that for you. If any of you guys have to leave for 2 minutes, do so and come back while I get the images sorted out. Was it just the blue one that was not working?
For me, it's the green and the blue.
The what?
The green and the blue are not working.
The green should work. The green should work. Actually, I have the thing. I'll just slack it out, actually. One. Yeah. Double check with he's again. Okay, I slacked out 3 images for us. Do we see that? Are we back? 2 minutes? Andy, you back? Let's make sure we're all on board. I don't want to start before anybody comes back. For now, just download it. Are we all back yet? Almost? Should we get started? Like we have now? Click on the assistant editor there. 1 second. Let me close mine out. What do you have now? You only have 1 showing up? Oh, you're back. Okay. You're welcome. All right, let's get started. We have 20 minutes. I want to do some things before we finish today. Cool. Come.
Well, maybe it'll work this time, but like you click red, that works. You click green, I get that error, and I don't know what is going on.
No, you don't already look at it soon. All right. Are we back? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, guys. It took 10 minutes. Okay, let's get started. So we spoke about the assets folder earlier today. Let's see the assets folder. Click on your project navigator. Click on your project navigator. Are we all back? We're paying attention, right? We ready? We're good? All right, click on your project navigator. Make sure that you see your files, correct? Files and folders, yes? Do you see right below your main storyboard, do you see assets? Adam, do you see assets?
Yeah.
Okay, if you do not see anything, stop us before we continue because it doesn't help you later. You're stuck and then you fall back a ways there. So project navigator, click right below, it says main storyboard, click right below main storyboard. At this point, you should see your assets folder, correct? There's nothing in there. Nothing in there meaning, do you see app icon? Do you see app icon? App icon is empty, there's no icon there. If you click on app icon, when you're shipping an app, there's required sizes and required images you need to put in. This part is when you're shipping your app, whether to Test Flight or the App Store. For purposes of today, we're adding in the 3 assets or images that I sent you. Assets also means whether it be media, images, music, those form assets. Those are known as assets. Everybody with me? Right? It could be an image, it could be a video file, it could be an MP3 file that you put in there, but they all go into the assets folder. Everybody with me? So we have 3 images that I slacked out. We've downloaded them, and now we'll add them to our assets folder. If you go down to the bottom of this black column here, do you see an add symbol? It says add a group or image set. Do you see that? At the very bottom, we see an add symbol, correct? Click on add. Do we see import? Do we see the import button? Click on import. It brings up a dialog. What do you want to import? Where is the thing you want to import? Right? Mine is in my downloads folder. I'll click on downloads folder. Wherever you downloaded the 3 assets, that's where you go. At this point, I want to get the lime image. You could also command click. So the first one I selected was lime, transparent background. I'll use command click for the others. I'm going to take the palm, not pomegranate, but just the palm.png. Right? So command click enables you to self-select what you want. Yes, make it bigger. Okay, so I'll start over. I selected the first one. In that case, it was lime. Everybody with me? I'm going to use command click to select others that I need. You could multi-select. Everybody with me? So command click, I'll command click palm.png. Everybody with me? I'll also command click blueberries.png. So far I have 3, correct? And I'll press open. It adds them. Now I've added 3 assets to my assets catalog. So far so good? I'll go back to my storyboard, which is right above. At this point, we do not need the assistant for now, so I'll close out the assistant. So I only have my one view on screen. I'll first select my first button, my first red button. I'll select it. I will go to the Attributes Inspector. How do we get to the Attributes Inspector? We open up the Inspectors column, right? I select Attributes, which is already selected for me. I'll make sure that I do have my first button selected. If I do not have my first button selected, it won't show the attributes for that button. So you select the element you want to change as attributes, and then that attributes opens up. In my case, it's the button. And now, where it says red, do we see red? Right below title here. Let me take that up a little bit. Do we see the text red? Go ahead and remove it. Remove red, where it says title red. So far, so good. Do we see background? Let me zoom out. So where it says background here, I'm going to click on the drop-down menu. At this point, I will select my palm image. Right? Did we select the palm image? So that's my red image. Go ahead and do the others. Do green and do blue. Do green and do blue by yourself. And I'll come back around. Do green and do blue. So green is the lime, blue is the blueberries. Anna, how you doing? Good. Did you do the green and the blue? Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfecto. So I'm going to do the green. I'll remove the green name here. I'll go down to background, image. I'll select my lime. We remove the word. The word does not stay. We remove it by deleting it. Where it says title, remove title. And here you go to background and we change it with an image. Images are better, they're nice. We love images. Great. At this point, I'll run my app and make sure it still works as before. Yes, sir. Go ahead and run and make sure it still works. Get the one we have in Slack. It's resized already. If you downloaded the one from the repo, you have to resize it yourself. But I've resized it already. You could simply resize an image using preview. If you double click on an image it will bring a preview, and you could go to Tools and resize.
But I dragged it off the screen. How do I?
Command Z, remove that. Yes. It stopped changing color. So we need to debug your code with you. Was it when you put the images? Was it when you put the images? That's all you did though, the images. Oh, maybe when you deleted the words, you deleted something else. Let me verify mine works. Oh, right. Haha. We have more code to do, guys. Sorry. What does it do now? What's the switch statement doing? What's that? Yeah, but we have no button label.
Oh, so now that we don't have to.
Now our code is broken.
Yeah.
We gotta fix it. Let's do that. All right. Our code is broken. Everybody got it, right? Why it's broken? There's no label anymore, right? So that was bad there. Well, we shouldn't have code. Yeah, go ahead.
Above where it says, it's where we put the picture in, above it is another option.
We will continue. We'll refactor our code. We'll refactor our code to not use a title. We'll refactor our code to use a tag. Every view has a tag. The same way you could tag a pigeon or tag a shark, right? Or tag yourself. Right? You could tag a view. I could say view pomegranate, you get a tag of 0. I could say view lime, you get a tag of 1. Everybody with me? I could say view blueberry, you get a tag of 2. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? It's a tag. We'll see what that looks like. A tag is a property on a view. Yes, sir. Application, where is even an application C? Just the view controller C, that's all we need. What is she looking at? View as, it's a Mac app she created. Help her create an iOS app. So at the beginning, we said we're creating an iOS app. Are you changed to a Mac app? All right, interesting. Go back and see if you could change it back to an iPhone app, iOS app. Okay, cool. So we have 10 minutes. We could do this. Let's refactor our code to use tags. So while we're in Storyboard, click on the first button. Click on the first button. As we said before, a button inherits from a control inherits from a view. Do we see where it says tag? Let me zoom in. Do we see tag here? If you click on your button, do you see tag when you go to Attributes Inspector? Need confirmation. Do we see that? All right, thank you. Click on the lime image or the lime button. And for the tag, change it to 1. Let me zoom in, zoom out. So for my lime, I want it to be tag 1. So where it says tag, change it from 0 to 1. On view. I said control inherits from view, not on the button, on the view. Because the view itself doesn't have a button. I mean, the button doesn't have a tag, but it inherits from the parent that has a tag. So we go down to that view. Very good. Click on blueberry. What should the tag be? 2. So do that. And confirm, before we move on, confirm that your pomegranate has a tag of 0. Click on your lime. It does have a tag of 1. And click on blueberry. Confirm that it does have a tag of 2. So far, so good. The tag, in order for us to track what got clicked on, we could tag them. Because before we were doing it via the title. But now we cannot use the title, so we're using tags on views. So we have 3 views. Mel, we use tags on each of them. We give them different tags so we know which one got pressed. Yes?
So remember, like, so they do the default database, the blue one on,
Yeah, that's the only one that would work because didn't it have a red? It started by red, I think, right?
No, no,
Or
no.
blue.
The default title that we deleted the colors on it.
Uh-huh.
I forgot to take the blue one.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, got you. Do we have the tags 0, 1, 2? Okay, we're using the tags in order to know what got pressed and what we need to change. Everybody with me? Because before we use the button title and we use a switch on it, we're like, hey, switch, if you're blue, change to blue. If you're red, change to red. Now we don't have access to the label titles. Everybody with me? So we have to refactor our code. Part of programming is to refactor your code. It's broken, now we need to fix it. Let's go to the view controller. Click on the view controller in your navigation, in your project navigator. Click on view controller. And let's go to our color change button pressed. And let's delete all that code that we just wrote. If you really love it, you could keep it. But we love to write code again, right? All right, practice. Great, so meeting, right. Cool, so we'll start out with a tuple. We'll create a tuple called color. No guard yet. We're not guarding because we're not coming from an optional. Luba? Yeah, we're deleting all the code we have in that function. Again, let's go back. The only thing you have in the curly bracket is nothing. We deleted all the code in our function. So far, so good. So let's go ahead and create it, recreate it. So here we'll create a tuple. We'll call it new color. And new color takes in some UI color, which is an optional. And it takes in some name, which is a string. Yeah. Like that. Great. Every view has a tag, period. We could use the tag for purposes like today, where you want to see what tag it is. What tag got pressed? Already we have a sender. If we say sender.tag, if our third button got pressed and we said sender.tag, what should the tag be? 2, right? If we said the first button and we say sender.tag, what should the tag be? 0. Very good. So that's the purpose of the tag there. Now we know what tag it is. We have 3 buttons. We know what to set. So far, so good. Yes? In that case, maybe the thing doesn't have a color. Maybe it's clear. Maybe there's no color available, right? So it's optional. Same as the title label for a button. As we saw, we removed the title label. So that's also optional because it could exist or maybe it doesn't exist. All right, cool, good. So here we'll switch. What do we have? Sender dot tag. Where are you? Sender dot tag. All right, perfect. So here we're switching on sender dot tag, and tag is an int. Right, 0, 1, 2, that's an integer. We'll say case 0. Oh, sorry. Come on, Xcode. You know what I'm doing. It's almost lunchtime. Okay, so case 0, we want to create a new color. And our new color expects some color. So if in case 0, what are we adding? What color? Red. And the name is going to be red. Case 1. New color gets assigned what color? Green. And we have case 2, new color gets assigned what color? Blue. And the name is blue. Do we need a default here? Because integers could go on forever. So here we have a default. New color, we'll just make it white. Great. So now we need to set up our elements, right? View.background color will get new color dot color. Like that. What else we need to set? We set the background color. What else we need to set? The label, right? So here we say display label. How do we set the label? Can I just say label like this? The background color, is that valid? The background color is new color, that name. Can I set the label like that? Can I just say label string? Can I just say label equal to string? That text, right, according to Dan here. Because the label by itself doesn't expect a string. But the label has a property called text that you need to assign a string. So here, we need to say that text, the property text. Can we get everything on screen here? So you see how everything we've learned so far comes together. We created a tuple. We created a switch statement. We're using string interpolation. We're using dot syntax to access properties. We have a function here. So all those pieces are coming together. Let's run this and we'll wrap up for the day. Let's verify everything does work. I'll put that aside somewhere so we could see the screen. All right, so if I click on my promgonat, that turns red. And my text also turns red. If I click on my lime, it turns green. My text also turns green. If I click on my blueberry, the background turns green, and my text also turns green. So at this point, we have accomplished our task. As you have questions, we'll come around in the afternoon after lunch and help you while we review your assessment. And at this point, we have enough of context for the midday check-in. And as I said, we have a lab that's similar to this, but it's due tomorrow. So as you're working on the lab, you have questions, feel free to come to us. Today is the first day we're doing iOS development, so a lot of the things are going to be very new, and some might be a bit frustrating, like moving buttons around. But as you do it more and more, you'll get more comfortable with it. So things will break. Things will break, but you'll get more comfortable with them. And you'll have errors. We'll help you with the errors. All those things there. So far, so good? So far, so good. All right, cool. So we'll stop here.